There we go.
Wow, look at this, guys. 70-degree weather this weekend. I love it. So we're finally getting back into spring here. Oh. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
How's everyone doing today?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. Oh, I've been looking forward to the weekend. So, especially if 70 degrees.
I know. I hope we're done with the rain for today, for this week in general.
Oh, my. Yeah, it is so nice. I just hope it doesn't rain all weekend. So.
Yeah, I think I saw some more in the forecast, but we'll take it.
I mean, I do like the rain, you know. So they did say April showers, spring May flowers, but you know, it's not supposed to rain in May. So, well, if you are new here, welcome to Gloria Horn Sewing Studio. We are located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and today is Fashion Friday with me, John, and
Genevieve.
So today we are going to show you all about different types of hems, and so we're going to get right into it, actually. So I have a couple different swatches of fabric that I got, and this is going to be a great video to reference with our future projects. So in case you ever go, how do I do this type of hem again? This is going to be one of those videos and streams that you're going to want to come back to and reference. So the first type of hem that I'm going to show you guys today is called a baby hem or a narrow hem. So it's just a little tiny 1/8 of an inch hem. So I have a piece of satin that we're going to demonstrate on. And this hem is best done with dresses or something that's very fine, like formal wear with a dress. So especially satins, it just is a really clean finish. So if we come over here to the ironing station, what we are first going to do is we are going to fold over and iron this at 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to use our Panasonic iron. We absolutely love these. So we're just going to give this a nice little press. And these irons are so nice and lightweight. They are just perfect. So they're not real heavy. They're not real clunky. And I'm also going to just use my tailor's clapper real quick. I have these a little later in the lineup, but it's just a nice way to give a more permanent crease. So, and now we're going to come over to the sewing machine. So you could do this hem with your regular J-foot that is on the machine. And today I am using the Brother SE2000. So this is a really nice sewing and embroidery combo machine. This is a perfect starter machine. Maybe if you have like a niece or nephew that's just getting into sewing. It has a knee lift, which is really nice, which works with the foot. And it does have the thread cutter, the tie off button, the start and stop button. So, and it does have 5x7 embroidery. And for this hem, I'm actually going to show us using the straight stitch foot. So I know a lot of you guys have this foot, and I've had a lot of people ask me how you could use this, and I actually like to use this for this specific hem, just because you could get really close to the edge, and it kind of gives you a better idea of lining up. So when using the straight stitch foot, it's really important we put our stitch for our regular straight stitch to number 3, which is the center position, just because it is a tiny little hole. So if your foot's going to the left a little bit, or your needle, it's going to hit that. So if you were in the left position, it's not going to go through the hole and you'll break a needle. So we'll make sure that we're in that center stitch. And I'm just going to put our foot on real quick. And then we are just going to sew very close to the edge. You could do really close, which would be an edge stitch or a 16th. I like to try to go for about an 1/8. Just gives me a little bit better control. So, and it's really nice having the knee lift on this machine. So, and then we're just going to stitch right along that edge. And I hope my head is not blocking the way, so I'm sorry if it is. And I'm just gonna hit that thread cutter button. Hopefully my thread didn't get, yep, it just got caught a little bit there. So it caught in the J foot when I put it down. So that's my fault. But this is why we love our squeezy snips, just for that. And I could just get that little piece of thread out of there because I was like, oh no, I hope I didn't have the tension on the wrong setting. But, so once we do that, we just did a really close stitch to the edge. We're gonna come back over to the ironing board. So, when we're at the ironing board, I'm gonna give this a nice quick little press. And pressing is super, super, super important. Every time when making clothes, I've heard a lot of instructors say that ironing is just as important as the sewing part, so it's really important. And then I'm gonna just take my 6-inch duck bell scissors. You could use your squeezy snips, the mini duck bells, and we're just gonna trim really close to that stitching line. So, just like so, and that's why I like these scissors the best. I feel like I have a little bit better control, but everybody has their own preferences. So, and funny story, so I like to share this with everybody. On the cruise, in Steve, Gloria, and I's class, we had one group of ladies that were all left-handed, and we only had left-handed duck bell scissors, and I think like 2 pairs of squeezy snips. So we all had to share, but I was like, I'll make sure for our spring event we have the left-handed available. Because I was just, we didn't think of it.
What a crazy coincidence.
6 out of 8 people in the class were left-handed. So I was like, wow. Alrighty. So once we trim that down very closely, we're actually going to roll it back over. And I like to give it a little bit of an iron. You could roll this under the machine, but I just like to give it a little bit of a press just to kind of keep its shape.
What was the stitch length that you were using?
So I was just using the default stitch length, which is 2.5. You could go a little narrower depending on the type of fabric. If it's a satin, I would recommend keeping it at around 2.5. I am happy that you guys asked that though, because I am going to adjust the stitch length with a couple other ones that I'm going to show you guys in a little bit. So, once we do that, we're going to go back over to the sewing machine. And do forgive me, guys, I am sewing on just a teeny bit of an angle, so I can't really look directly at my machine how I normally sew. Usually I'm like head over first. If anybody else sews that way, let me know. But I'm kind of on an angle here. So we are just going to stitch right over that previous stitching line. And this is why I like that straight stitch foot, because you have that narrow guide where you know that's going. So I kind of like to line that stitching line right up in the center of that plate. So I like doing my narrow hems this way. There is a foot, which is the rolled hem foot. And you could use those terms interchangeably. A lot of people like to call this a baby hem, a rolled hem, a narrow rolled hem. So they are kind of one of those terms that you could use a little interchangeably. Alrighty. And then we'll go back to the iron one last time, but we could kind of see it's very close to the edge. So that's why they call it a narrow hem. And then we'll just give that one last quick iron. Alright, So if we could zoom in a little bit, you can see this is a beautiful, clean finish. This is a perfect way to do a hem, especially on a nice like satin slip dress or really anything that's satin. I just like to hem satins this way. That's my favorite way of doing it. So
Nice clean finish.
And then I did want to just briefly show those feet to explain this. So you could use these feet, and I have both in our lineup a little later, I think. But there's the 4mm and 6mm rolled hem feet. And I find that these work best when you're doing a straight edge. Doing a little bit of curve can be challenging at times, but they work best when doing a straight edge. So if you know you have a pattern piece that is just going to be straight edge and you want to hem it those 3 ways, I like using this foot for that. But it does have a little bit of difficulty going over seam allowance, so I think it's best with clean, straight edges. And they're perfect for tea towels. I actually like to use them for that the best. So, alrighty, and we're gonna switch over to Genevieve. So she's going to show a double folded hem.
I am. I'm gonna do it on this lovely piece of denim right here. So I'm gonna grab the iron first. Double fold hem is very, very simple. You're very likely all familiar with it already, but it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm gonna fold it down once, give it a quick press. And I'm just using the end of this fabric as my guide. If I was doing this on a garment, I would, be doing the hem to whatever length I'd want that finish to be at. I'm going to fold it over again. Give that a quick press. And I have our edge line right here. And I'm going to take it over the machine. I'm going to be using the Bernina today. Whoops. There we go. Okay. This is the 570, which I've been using a little bit on some of our quilting projects and really enjoying. It's got a really sturdy feel to it. So for this, I'm just lining up the edge of my foot with the edge of the hem I've created. I can get it a little bit farther in here. Okay. Whoa, hello. There we go. Okay. What's going on here today?
Oh, I think I have it set to the stitch that does the back stitch first. It's the piecing stitch. So I did want to take a quick moment to talk about these Berninas. Well, Genevieve's showing that.
So we got some.
Here's a pair of squeezy snips in case you need them.
Thank you.
I absolutely am in love with these 570s. I haven't had too much time to play with them, but we are going to be having them at our spring event, which I cannot wait for you guys to sew with these in Tiffany's class. They sew beautifully and go through so many layers of denim, which I'm going to demonstrate in a little bit here. They are just power horses. I don't have a better word for it. So, we might have to take the bobbin out. Maybe there's a little bit of a
I'm going to check our bobbin right now. Thank you.
Well, that's going on. I could briefly show, if we come back over to the camera real quick here, I did want to talk briefly about the buttonholes on the Bernina. So we are a little new, so we probably have a little bit of an operator error here. I might have put in the bobbin in wrong before by accident. But when I was test sewing the other day on these Berninas with the buttonhole, buttonholes are the biggest things for me ever, just because I've had a machine before where I could not do the buttonhole perfectly, and I was like, I want to just test this out on the Bernina. I hear great things about their buttonhole feet, and so I just tested it out on some denim, which if anybody else has sewn with denim, you guys know that these layers get really thick quickly, and it's very hard to keep a buttonhole feeded through evenly, especially on a jean jacket or anything. And I did it right here. This would be maybe the back tab for a jean jacket. And it just went through that seam, that heavy, thick seam right there, just perfectly. And I was kind of replicating a little bit of a placket, and those buttonholes just came out beautiful. I find it a little bit harder to do nice buttonholes like this on the brothers or the baby locks at times, and even the eyelets. I mean, this is just, it's precision. I absolutely am falling in love with these machines. So me and Tiffany were joking just because we like to sew up a lot of heavy duty fabrics that maybe one of these ones that we're going to be using at the event, we might have to get one for our personal collections. So I did want to just briefly show you guys that. And if you are local and you're maybe interested, why don't you come in, you give us a call, 412-344-2330. You could call me, you could call Steve. One of us will pick up on extension 2. We're more than happy to schedule a demo with you. So it's just, the Berninas have a lot to offer, especially with heavy duty sewing. So I'm really excited about that. In the meantime, well,
We just got some threads stuck down here. I'm getting them out right now.
oopsies. Alrighty, well, I could talk briefly about what we're going to be showing for the rest of our little hem demonstrations. Well, Genevieve's getting that set up. So we are going to show you a narrow rolled hem on the serger, because you can do it on the serger as well, and I find it works best, especially with very sheer, delicate fabrics like a chiffon right here. We are also going to show you how to do a blind hem. So if you have suit pants or anything, and if the nieces and nephews, the husbands ask you to hem their pants, maybe don't learn this one if you don't want to do it, because I will be honest, everybody in the family, all my relatives are like, they just come over my house whenever they want. Hem these for me. Hem my jeans for me. Hem my suit pants for me. And so it gets a little, sometimes there's a little bit of a burden, I guess, if you want to call it that, when you learn certain techniques. So, and then I'm also going to show you guys how to hem faux leather. So there's 2 different ways I'm going to show you guys, which comes in handy. So, but yeah, it is some great techniques to learn. And so I'm curious, what's the weather like by everybody today as we're getting set up in the background here? So it is a nice 72 here in Pittsburgh today. I'm very excited. I'm going to go out with some friends and family later tonight, so doesn't call for rain. Do you have any fun plans, Kate?
No, not today. But tomorrow I'm going, my cousin, he just had his first baby, and it's the child's 1-year birthday.
That's nice.
First birthday, so he's having a little party for him tomorrow, and I'm excited to see everyone, all my family and stuff.
That's really nice. That's exciting. So I don't think I have too many fun plans this weekend. I will be in here on Saturday, so I'm sure I'll see a couple of you all. But yes, it's going to be quite an interesting one. And I'm so sorry that I have missed the past 2 Fashion Fridays. So the one, I was really sick. I couldn't make it in. And then last week, we just had technical difficulties, so we couldn't get comments sold in our live streams to work. So I do apologize about that. But you are going to get 2 back-to-back ones with this Friday and next Friday. So, and I hear you guys. So it's nice in Williamsburg today. Oh, hi, Troy. Hi, Melba. I hope everybody's doing great. Florida. Oh, I'd love to be in Florida today. Colorado, blue skies. Rain in upstate New York. So, yeah. Well, it seems like everybody has pretty good weather. We had this crazy, crazy storm the other day. And so I was on the phone with my friend that I was going to meet up with after work to celebrate our birthdays. We have a shared birthday. So not every, I feel like it's pretty rare to meet somebody and be friends with them that has the same exact birthday as you. So we were going to go out and meet up, and the rainstorm hit. And I'm just like, oh, it's just a little bit of rain. We will all be fine. And she's telling me, she's like, the power went out, and turns out 300,000 people here in Pittsburgh lost power. Isn't that crazy? So
And I know Joni still doesn't have power, and she'll probably it's supposed to get it by next Tuesday. She's not going to be here this weekend, so hopefully it turns on while she's gone, so she comes back and there's power.
Yeah, well, that's definitely interesting. I actually had power this whole time, so I feel a little guilty. I think Tiffany lost power, Joni lost power, so it is quite interesting.
All right.
All right, looks like we're back up and running.
I think we're back.
So, and I didn't lose power, but a 40-foot tree in my backyard did uproot.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for bearing with us, everyone. Okay. Now that we've got that figured out, let's go back to the beginning here. Great. Okay. And you'll see with the Berninas, if you're watching while I was going through our technical difficulties, this screen right here is very lovely and has so many notifications for when something's wrong. So we are getting the little gear symbol on here. And there we go. There's our double fold hem. This one you can see from both sides, but I really like that as a top stitch detail for stuff like jeans. For pajama pants, it's really easy. Yeah. There we go.
And so that's kind of how you would go about hemming your jeans too. I like to do just a half an inch and then another half. That's standard on most pairs of jeans. So, and I did want to show real quick with this Bernina. So I have another piece of denim. I'm just going to wrap this up as many times as I can. I was testing on this the other day. So there is this needle driver function, which I just think is absolutely amazing with the machines. So I'm just going to do press our foot up, and then so when it starts going through a thick layer, it will sense, and it has this needle driver function. So you might hear it make a noise. Oh, I'm still on the knee lift. Whoops. Once again, everyone, I am sewing on an angle. So, all right, there we go. If we could just see how many layers of denim, it's just flying through and sewing like butter. I'm just in love. So I like to sew a lot of things with denim. That's kind of my thing, my favorite fabric to work with. And these Berninas just sew so nicely. I just can't get over it, so. And I can even, I did test this yesterday. Let's go over that many layers. Without my thread breaking, of course. I joke, anytime I go to demo anything, my the thread breaks, the needle breaks. It's just, I have bad luck sometimes. If you've heard about Tommy and I's flight story, I think he's a little worried. Tommy and I are going to go out to Bernina training in the end of June. So I'm sure I'll probably learn a better way to show this, but we have to fly again together, and he is probably a little bit worried flying with me, because our first experience when we went out to Brother, that was quite the nightmare. We almost missed our flights. We had to run through Philadelphia's airport, and every flight was delayed. And I joke, I said, I'm surprised the cruise ship didn't sink. So, it is one of those things where truly, I might be bad luck, because that is the third time. So third time threading this has to be a charm. So maybe I should just hold on to my thread real quick. There we go. Or not. But I did it yesterday, and I wanted to show it today, but it goes through all these layers, and usually 9 times out of 10 it sews through them beautifully. So, I'm sure I'm doing something wrong here, but you are able to go through really thick layers, even on the 570. I know Steve have showed it before on the 990, so, it's one of those things that Tiffany and I are really excited about. But I'm going to switch over to the next hem. So we're actually going to go over to the serger that I have in the lineup, which is the Brother 1034D. And so right here, I have it set up, and I set it up to a rolled hem, which in a little bit too, I'm going to talk about these chairs that we're sitting on, the Ultimate Sewing Chair. At first, I was a little skeptical, but the more that we've been using them, I'm just like, you know what, these are really nice. So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But, so for the serger, let me find my foot pedal real quick. I wrote down the steps that I did. So this is a perfect starter serger. So if you don't have a serger and maybe you think that you might not use it as much, I always say this is a very cost-friendly serger. It is only $279.99. I think this is the most affordable serger on the market, especially if you're just getting started out. And there's some really nice functions. So you have 4-thread overlock, 3-thread overlock, and you do have the rolled hem, and you could also do a flat lock stitch on this as well. So I'm just going to go through the steps that I did to set this up. But there is the stitch finger. So this is for your stitch width. And it just snaps right in here in this little spot. I have it taken out, so when you do the rolled hem, it will just snap right out. You just press this little release lever that is inside of the machine here. And then there's a nice little spot that it sits in, so you can store it nicely. And it will just sit right in there so that you don't lose it. And the serger does give you a step-by-step guide on how to thread the upper and lower loopers. So what I did put in the upper looper, so I have 3 cones of thread, but I put stretch thread, which is called woolly nylon thread or just stretch serger thread. This is from Maxi Lock. I have this a little later in the lineup with my regular thread. And I have that going through this middle one, the upper looper, and that makes the rolled hem look a little bit nicer and cleaner of a finish, and it will help really roll it over. So I also took out the left needle, so I only have the right one in. And then I adjusted, which is really nice on the machine. They give you a little guide. I set the settings to R. I changed the stitch length, and I set this to R as well. And R stands for rolled hem. And so if we have our chiffon, and I like doing my rolled hems this way, I also put a very fine needle in there. I put a 7511 in, just because the thicker needle that you have going through a chiffon might leave more of a hole. So it's nicer to put a finer needle in, especially with fine sheer fabrics like this. And then we're just going to serge. So I'm just trimming off very little here, and I'm just letting the machine do its thing. And uh-oh, I did something wrong here. I think when I pulled that thread, it got caught. So let me see if I could just end this off real quick. Okay, let me steal a pair of snips. Make sure that I'm going through all my loopers, which I am. I can't see the comments right now, but I just know that you guys are laughing. If you were with me on the cruise or at our fall event, Kate knows anytime I do a demo, something always goes wrong. But I think I'm able to fix this here. So we're just going to start on this side. But so you would just go very small. I'm only trimming a very small amount off this square. So depending on your pattern piece or whatever you're hemming, I'm just going to trim a little bit off. There we go. And then you get this really nice rolled hem. And I always like to take it to the iron too, and we might be able to see it a little bit better there. But This is a great starter machine for a serger, and it does have the lift on the side for the presser foot. And there is a little waste bin, which I don't know what I did with it. I misplaced it before the show. But I really do like that serger. I actually started off with that one, so it's a really nice one. And then coming back to the iron here, so we could see where I messed up a little bit. I think I just had it positioned a little weird where it folded over. But this side is very cleanly finished. And so I think I have a shirt that's on display in the other building that I used a narrow hem to finish off the edges for that. So, and thank you guys. You guys are so nice. I think today I have a little bit of bad luck with my demos, but that's a nice way to finish off a very sheer fabric like chiffon. So we're just going to line these hems up here. And then Genevieve is going to show you guys how to do a blind hem.
Yes, I've had lots of practice with these this week. I'm costuming a musical right now, and through alterations, this is a really great hem to have in your metaphorical sewing tool belt. So for a blind hem, you may recognize that there's also a way to do it by hand. This is how you do it with a machine. It saves so much time. I will be using our blind stitch foot. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to go through how we use this on our machine in just a second here. I've seen versions that look a little different, but this one has a handy little guide on the side here that is adjustable. So first, I have this fabric that John has prepped for us today. We have our finished edge right here. So the blind hem stitch, what's going to happen, the machine does a few little straight stitches and then a single zigzag stitch. So we're doing tiny little sort of pricks up into our fabric that's going to hold it and be nearly invisible. So to do that, what we're going to be doing is folding the fabric so that we can sew solely on this finished edge. So I have it already pressed to where we want it, and we're going to take it and fold it this way. I'll do that again in sort of slow motion. So we're here. I'm just pinching it so that there's a little bit of a gap between our finished edge and the rest of the fabric. And I'm going to pin this just so it doesn't move on us. Just a couple little pins.
Yeah, and pinning these hems definitely help out a lot because it kind of, whenever I do them, I have to remind myself, Johnny, go a little bit slower with this one so it comes out nicer. So
yeah. This one is, I do recommend going slower on this one too, because you really need to be careful that you're not edging onto your main fabric and that we're staying on that seam allowance. So I'm just adjusting it as I'm pinning it, making sure we're staying even. Okay. So now let's go over to our machine. I'm back on the Brother here, and I've loaded this up with some invisible thread, which is this very skinny, very delicate thread that we're not going to be able to see once we're finished with it. So got my presser foot. I got to find what I did with my threads so I don't. Okay. So I'm going to line the edge of this foot. There's a knob on this little plastic part that's going to allow me to get it closer and closer, and I'm looking so that the little foot of this plastic part is lined up with the edge of my fabric. And that's going to be my guide where I'm going to want to keep this edge right up along that fold that I've created. Now I got to switch to our blind hem stitch, which I almost forgot to do, which would have been disastrous. On this machine, it is on our second menu, and it is our first stitch. So you can see here, it's going to be doing a couple straight stitches and then a single little zigzag. And that zigzag is going to hit right on our folded edge. So I'm going to go in very slowly. Actually, I'm going to adjust before I do that because it looks like we got folded up a little bit. There we go. Whoop. Okay, and already I'm going to adjust it because I see that my needle is a little bit more left than I was anticipating it. Grab our snips. Sorry.
And so that foot's really nice, and I always like to use the invisible thread whenever I'm doing a blind hem. I think it makes it a little easier. So, funny story is I needed to hem my pants years ago when I was still in high school. I didn't know as much about sewing at the time, and I saw that you could just do it with a close enough matching thread, and it was a little bit noticeable. And then my dad kept saying, "Oh, my son hemmed his pants. He hemmed his pants." I was like, "Dad, stop! No, it's noticeable. It's not a blind hem." So it's definitely nice to use the invisible thread, which we have in the lineup here. So.
Okay. Uh-oh. My invisible thread came unthreaded. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. You can see how fine and delicate it is. I'm holding it right now, and I doubt you can barely see it on camera. Oops. Where did it? There we go. Okay. Bring my pins a little closer so they don't go flying everywhere. All right. Again, lining up with the edge. I'm going to make sure everything's... There we go.
And so it's doing a couple stitches on the serged edge and then one little zigzag to catch that hem.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it
I'm going to slow down a little bit
invisible.
and just... Okay. Let's take it over here so we can see if we can even see it, but oh, there's our blind hem.
Yep, and we'll give that a nice little
Yep.
iron. So oh my gosh, look at that. Literally
There you go.
invisible. You
You can't even
cannot
see
see
it.
it. So,
Let's see if we can...
and they make two different types of invisible thread. So, this is nice to know because there is smoke, which actually might make it even more invisible on a fabric like this that's a darker one. And then we just use the regular clear one, but I can't even.
I'm trying
see
to... I have the barest little glint that I can see if I move my head back and forth, but I don't think anyone will be examining your
Here,
pant
maybe we
hems.
try holding. Yeah, I mean, I cannot even see it. It's literally invisible. So using
Mhm.
invisible thread is so nice, especially when doing a blind hem like that. Genevieve sewed that beautifully.
Mhm.
So, and then here's a project that I used a blind hem on. So I made this pleated skirt quite a while ago, and I did a blind hem. So blind hems are very common with suiting, especially
Mhm.
suiting fabrics. It's just a nice, clean way of finishing. So you can barely even see the stitches,
Yeah.
only if I hold it in a certain light. So, and you can't see it at all from the
Mm-mm.
front. And then that brings us to our final hem. So I was like, I need to give them a little bonus. We're not doing knit hems today. That's just going to be a separate video, I think, with sergers, because there's a couple different ways that you can hem knits, which are really fun, really nice. So this one's mainly intended for wovens. How do you do a blind hem on a curved bottom like a skirt? So if you press up for whatever your seam allowance is, and you could also do a couple gathering stitches if it's really curved to help kind of pull them in. You could then, with it being gathered a little bit, still do that stitch. So, but right now I'm going to show how to hem faux leather in 2 different ways. So I'm just going to come over to the
Yes,
ironing
let's
board real
switch.
quick.
Mhm.
So there's 2 different methods that I like. The first one, and this might be the easier one, is using By Annie's basting tape. So this very small 1/8 of an inch double-sided basting tape. I love using this for faux leather. It's really nice. It works very well. So what we will do, and I have a couple friction pens here. So I'm going to mark on the back of my faux leather right here. And I'm just going to steal
Yep.
our little Gloria horn roller that I found. And so I'm going to mark up 2 inches. Let me see if I could do it this way. This is one of those 1/2 inch rollers. So there we go. There's 2 inches. So I'm just going to mark with a black friction pen. This is going to erase off. So when doing faux leather, it's a little bit different because you can't directly iron it. You have to use a pressing cloth, and they recommend turning off the steam. So I'm going to do that now real quick before I forget. And then what we're going to do is along that line that I drew very faintly, you don't have to dig the pen in to the faux leather because it might leave a crease. So I just like to do kind of as faint, but where I could see it. And then we'll lay our By Annie's tape right there along the edge. And then I'm going to take a pair of tweezers
Go.
or squeezy snips, either or, just to peel off that one little layer.
Here they are.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. So we're just going to peel that off. This you could just discard. And then I am just going to fold up that raw edge along that line. Just like so. And then we're going to top stitch from the other side. But I am going to first give this a quick little press just with the dry iron. And so what I found I like the best as a pressing cloth. This is actually just a scrap piece of organza fabric. It's polyester. You wouldn't want to use a silk organza. You would want to use a poly organza. And I like to do 2 layers here. And then without steam, I just give a quick little press just to help press it down a little bit and crease it a little bit more nicely. And you could also use those tailor's clappers too to really set that in. Those come in handy a lot. We'll lift that up. And if I'm being honest, if you wanted this as like a blind hem with faux leather, you could kind of keep it this way if you wanted to, because you don't really put faux leather in a washing machine all like that. So this should last for a while, but I have a better way of making it more permanent than just tape. But we're going to come over to the sewing machine here, and I'm going to put on our Teflon foot, if Kate could hand me that real quick, while I get set up. So I'm just going to switch our threads.
Linda, we did have invisible thread in our bobbin for that last hem as well.
Oh, I actually have the Teflon foot by me. I'm sorry, Kate. So here is our Teflon foot, and this works with both Baby Lock and Brother machines. So the Teflon foot is a non-metal foot, and it's coated with a Teflon bottom so that it can glide right over faux leather and vinyl. Your normal metal foot will actually get caught up and stuck, and it doesn't really slide as well. We could see how it's grabbing on compared to the Teflon foot. It's smoothly guiding. So, and I'll just do side by side so you could see So we're going to put our Teflon foot on, and then we're going to come over to the machine. So I'm just going to put the presser foot down real quick. And I'm also going to just change the bobbin out. And there is a needle threader on this machine. So I really like this machine too as a starter machine. I think it's a great one, and also being that you have 5x7 embroidery with it. So maybe if you have a niece, a nephew, a grandson, or you're just starting out and new to sewing, this is actually a nice machine to start out with. And there is a really nice setting that I love in this machine too, that you can adjust your pressure foot pressure here, your initial position. So sometimes people like to start off on the left, but here we go. So let me just switch back to our utility stitches. And I do like to mention this one too. On this machine, you also have the My Custom Stitch feature where you could design your own stitches. So I would like to show that one of these days on the live. It's with all the Brother machines. It's a really cool feature. But I'm just going to go back in our utility stitches, which is blue, and go back to the center. And then when I'm sewing this, I just want to get a little bit close, and you don't have to worry about finishing the edge with faux leather. You could keep it raw. If you did want to serge it, you could, but you don't have to. And with the needle threader, all I have to do is press this little side lever, and you'll thread that needle for me. And I'm just going to sew this hem at 3/4 of an inch. So that is 5/8. Let me adjust my needle position to the left. So the plate in the back has your seam allowances for when your needle position is to the left. And then towards the front here is when you have it in a center position. So I just adjusted it because I'm using 3/4 in the back. Actually, I could go a little bit beyond that. So, and I'm just going to start. And I actually do want to increase my stitch length a little bit because I'm top stitching. So let's go up to 3.5. I really like that as a top stitching length, especially if I was using a heavy duty thread. So, and look what that Teflon foot, it just sews through it like it's butter. It's not getting hung up. If you were trying to use your J foot, it would not work. So, and we could see. And so if you have about 1/4 of an inch on the inside, that's fine. I'm actually going to show you guys a pair of pants that I made in faux leather. So I hemmed these slightly different. I actually think for the hem, more specifically, I would have really liked the basting tape, but to knock down your seam allowances, I actually used Steam-A-Seam. So all these seams are nice and permanently sealed down so that they don't flap over. So I use Steam-A-Seam for those, and I use Steam-A-Seam for the hem for these faux leather flared pants that I made quite a while ago. So super cute. And so I was like, oh, I have these in the store. I want to show faux leather real quick on how to hem that. I thought it was a nice little add-on. And so that's the first way of hemming faux leather. And then the second way, we're going to repeat those same steps. And I do want to try using this, the hot hemmer. I forgot to try using it. So this is actually really nice.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't have to mark out all your seam allowances. I think this would have worked probably a little bit better if the satin or the denim in this case, or doing it this first time around, since I'm doing this slightly different with Steam-A-Seam. But the hot hemmer is a really nice tool to have, which I forgot was sitting there. And so I am just going to once again mark up 2 inches. So right there. Using my friction pen. And I really do like these because they do heat erase really nicely. So they're not leaving a permanent mark. I found that sometimes with some chalk markers, they will leave a permanent mark, except the Bowen. I really do like the Bowen chalk. that's really nice. It helps out a lot. There's a couple different ways you can do that. So now I'm going to apply Steam-A-Seam. And so I'm just using 1/4 inch Steam-A-Seam right here, and I'm going to lay down a piece long enough, and I'm going to iron it right along that line. So that's just going to help tack it down. Is my iron on? Might have turned off.
You don't have. Did you turn back on the?
Does
Oh,
the steam need to be?
I was just using the paper. This one was already used. I'm like, why isn't it?
Someone didn't cut it.
It wasn't cut. I was like, what's going on here? So there we go. Now I see it. So that's my fault. And I got to remark my line. But we could see how that line from the friction pen did disappear. So I was like, what's going on? I think this one's a show for the books. We might have to make a bloopers episode
A
just
little
with
blooper
this
reel.
one. I think this one would probably qualify for a lot. So I'm going to just use the red one here. And we're just marking out 2 inches because I want to do a 1-inch hem. So, okay, let me make sure I actually have it on this piece. Because I was just like, where did it go? So, let me just trim this real quick. So, could use Steam-A-Seam, and I see how it wrapped around the roll and it
Oh,
stayed.
there we go.
Now it's on me. You just have to laugh some days, you know how it goes. So, there we go. I'm just going to do that. There we go. Okay. Trimmed that. Press that down. And then I should just be able to pull this up. And then we are going to fold, matching that. And we got to use our piece of organza or a pressing cloth. Just organza happens to be my favorite for this. And then we are going to hold as we do that. And just make sure that that fuses together. And then we'll lift up, and we're going to just do a section at a time. So, and if you have your iron too hot, like in my case with this faux leather, you want to make sure you're more on a medium temp. That is my fault. I didn't adjust that. It might accidentally fuse your organza to your faux leather. So I should have checked for that before. That is my fault. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick. So once that's fused, just delicately lift that up. Once again, I had that iron too hot, so that was totally my fault. I knew I should have tried to change that a little bit before. So whoopsies. When I did it on the pants there, I made sure my iron temperature was low, so it didn't melt this into the pants, but I could still go ahead and finish showing this. So I actually want to show one more product here with this, and this is the Clover White Marking Pen. It's fine, and this is heat erasable too. So I sometimes like to come from the front for when doing top stitching, and let's just mark just a hair under an inch at 7/8. We could just make a nice little marking guideline here. And then if we let it air dry, the white will show up a little bit. Sometimes you could blow on it. It just takes a second and it shows up as white. But if you guys could see as it's starting to turn white there as it dries, you could use that as your guideline for top stitching, especially if you have a heavy duty thread in the top. That's what I like to do actually, because it makes it a little bit easier because I don't do both heavy duty thread in the top and bottom. Just sometimes it will mess with the tension a little bit. So we'll just go right back over to the machine real quick. There we go. And I'm going to put my needle in the center position now, since I have this nice little guideline that I could just follow through. And then we could just top stitch it just like that. And then that's going to just iron right away, steam. So okay, there we go. And then we could just go back over to the ironing board, preferably without the iron on the highest setting, on the low setting. No steam when ironing faux leather. I should have, that is once again my fault. And then you could just give that a quick iron to just remove that little guideline that was drawn on. So that's 2 ways of hemming faux leather. At least you guys got to see me make a mistake there. So that was one thing that I would have forgotten to mention.
We all make mistakes. We're just showing you guys what not to do.
Exactly. So we'll just give a brief overview of this hem, all these hems that we did, and then we have a couple products that we want to show you guys. So our favorite products that we love to use. But that was 2 ways of hemming faux leather with both basting tape and steam-a-seam. We did our double fold hem on denim. So then our blind hem, which came out beautifully. You can't see it at all. Our rolled hem on the serger. Once again, a beautiful way of finishing off a delicate fabric. So, and then our narrow / baby hem on satin. Another beautiful way of finishing off a hem. So now we have a couple products that we'd like to show you guys. So, a couple different things. And first and foremost, I do want to mention about these chairs one more time, because I know I said I was going to mention that. So, these are just amazing chairs. And if you're coming to our spring event or you're local, please stop by, try sitting in one of these chairs, because they are the ultimate chair. I was a little skeptical at first because I'm really loyal to my koala chair that's in my office, but I kind of want to get a custom made chair now for there. And it's really nice because you get to have this personalized and customized for you. So there's all these different fabrics and options with seat width. I mean, look at all these beautiful different finishes, all these beautiful different fabrics.
Oh, wow.
I love this one. We have a store sample in this fabric here. Gloria took that as her chair for her little corner office. I was trying to get that chair for Steve and I's room, but maybe in the future.
Yeah.
But all these very pretty fabrics. So to get your own custom chair made for you is really nice. They even have leathers.
Wow.
Look at that.
I hadn't seen this little book. This is great.
Look at all these beautiful colors. I think this is like the best treat that you could give yourself. So if you are local, come in, view it. They are really great chairs. And, you know, I got to say, this is just a great treat to yourself. So if this is something you're interested in too, you could always give us a call at 412-344-2330, option 2. You could talk to Steve or I about these and get one custom ordered for you. So, and then we got some products that we're going to show. So we have some fun products, stuff that I love and stuff that we use today throughout our show. So we're going to just start off with the Femore Duck Bell scissors. These are the 6-inch ones. I personally like these ones the best. This is my favorite size, but there is a couple other styles. I know that there is the small, what is this? The Gypsy Quilter mini ones. So these are nice, especially if you have maybe smaller hands. And then I promised I would have the left-handed ones because I know some of you guys are left-handed. So these are the 4.5-inch ones. I would not be able to use these ones since I'm not left-handed. But definitely, they're great. It's always great to have a pair of duckbill scissors, especially with those narrow rolled hems. So then I also have up next is our straight stitch foot. So this is what I did use for that narrow hem once again. I really like it. And it's missing. I might have
I
left
think
it.
we left it back somewhere.
Well, I might have lost it. So, and that's why I'm going to talk about the screwdrivers in a minute. Here it is. I'm always losing things. So sometimes you need an extra one if you have one, because if you are like me and a little clumsy, you'll always lose something. So, but I really do like the straight stitch foot, especially for that narrow hem. I think that's the easiest way of doing it and makes it a lot easier to line it up. And then up next, we have the blind hem foot, which we used for our blind hem. So once again, it's a great foot to have, especially if you are a garment sewer, or even if you're going to hem the family's pants. You know, everybody comes to me and it is a pain in the butt at times. So, but sometimes I'm like, okay, well, can you give me $15 and I'll do it? So it's a nice little extra way of making a little bit of cash on the side, I guess. So, but yeah, definitely a foot that you need. So up next too, we do have the different colors of invisible thread. Okay. So this is smoke, and then I have clear. So it comes in two different colors. So the clear shade works with just about everything. You can barely see it on here unless if I reflect it in the light, which is why this is why they made the smoke color, which is for darker fabrics that you probably wouldn't even see it reflect at all. So it all just kind of depends on whichever shade of fabric you're using. And I definitely love to have both colors at home at all times because they do come in handy a lot. Alrighty, and then up next is the Bowen Vanishing Chalk. So I like these too, especially when marking hems. You could use it on denim, or if you had to use it on your suiting fabric, it is nice because it irons away and vanishes. It doesn't leave a mark. I do really like this style. So whenever you're using a chalk, I like the ones that iron away. There's some wash away ones, but this is my favorite style. So, and then I do have that water soluble pen once again that I used to mark out my top stitching line on my faux leather here. So I do like these, just irons right away. You could even draw a little smiley face when sewing if you wanted to. And it'll just take a second as it air dries, but then it'll show up and then you can iron it away.
I'd get that mixed up with my gel pens. It looks just like it.
And then once again, the By Annie's double-sided tape. Tiffany loves this. I really love this when working with faux leather too now. I just think it's such an easy way to do it. Maybe even a little easier than a steam-a-seam, but that's both ways that you could hem it. And then I do have 1/4 of an inch steam-a-seam and 1/2 an inch in the lineup here. So steam-a-seam is nice too, especially when putting down seam allowances like this tote bag that I have over here.
That.
I know I use that to mark down all of my seam allowances before I top stitched it. So that's a great way of doing it, and it's more permanent. With the By Annie's tape, if this was something that was going to be washed, that might fade away over time. But because I did top stitch it, I think either or works. So let me just set this over here. And then what do we have next? So bobbins. So I have the brother banded. I cannot speak today. Genevieve, I think you need to
Our
take
brother
over for me.
branded bobbins. That's a tough one. That's a little bit of a tongue twister.
Say that 10 times.
No,
Brother
not right now.
Bobbins.
Yeah, always great to have extra bobbins around. I'm always running out of them when I need them the most. So this is a nice 10 pack. I don't know why I thought that said 19.
Yep. So I got 10 here, and then I also have a 50 pack.
Oh my goodness.
So the 50 pack,
Oh my
these
gosh,
work
look
with
at
both
this.
machines, Brother and Baby Lock. So it's always nice to have bobbins
Mhm.
on hand, especially the more the merrier is
Yes.
my saying. So, because I am always running out of bobbins, and I'm like, I need to find a new color thread.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the hot hammer pressing tool.
Oops.
I wish I would have remembered that I had this next to me, so I
Mhm.
will probably show this one of the next times up here. But this is a great tool, so you can iron right
Mhm.
over it with your fabric. And I'll just open it up real quick.
And this is different from a hot roller because it's got these lovely corners.
Yes, so you could iron anything you need. With these corners is really nice too, especially if you're doing a curved pocket
Yes.
and you're doing your basting stitches, which we'll show down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really nice curve that you could iron over as a template. So I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then my absolute favorite, the mini ironing board. I didn't iron any seams on this today.
No.
I kind of forgot that I had some of these over here, but I definitely love these mini ironing boards, even just for ironing your shirt sleeves in the morning or anything. So definitely get one of these. And then I have 3 different types of clappers. So this is a new
Whoa.
one. This is the big one. So I joked the last time. So here's the one that I like a lot. This is the 7-inch one. I think this fits perfectly in my hand. And then there's this one, which is nice if you're doing larger seam allowances or even a heavier fabric,
Mm-hmm.
thick layers of denim. And I joke and I said, this one looks like a turkey leg.
Oh, it kind of does. Yeah. It's got that heft to it, too.
Mhm. And then there's this one. So this is a 20-inch pressing bar. So you could actually iron your seam allowances up here too and still use it as a clapper. So that's really nice to have too.
2 in 1.
2 in 1. Can't beat it.
Mm.
Up next is our pattern notcher.
There
So
it is.
once again, my favorite tool, especially when I am adjusting a pattern or if I'm clipping out the notches. It is just such an easy tool to make the perfect little 1/4 inch nick into a pattern that you could use to mark for your notches. So definitely get one of these if you don't have one already.
Oops, thank you, Kate. Our loop turner's up next.
Yep, so loop turners are once again always such a great tool, especially when it comes to spaghetti straps
Mhm.
or even just a strap in general,
Mhm.
just to pull that fabric out. These are one of those must-have tools just
Yeah.
because with clothes, you will run into a lot of things that you are going to have to turn, whether it's a strap, spaghetti strap, so belts.
There we go. And then we have our, of course, measuring tape, which is necessary. Must have for garment sewing.
Must have. You have to have a measuring tape, and it has to be pink. Who doesn't want a pink measuring tape?
Yeah.
So pink is one of my favorite colors, I think, at
Mhm.
this point.
Yes.
And then
And
there
what
is, next is the 5/8 inch seam allowance
Oh,
foot.
yes.
This is our favorite foot, especially of our
Mhm.
simplicity patterns.
yes.
So we have showed this foot a lot lately. It's just one of the best ones if you are new to garment sewing,
Mm-hmm.
because having that 5/8 inch seam allowance, knowing that you're not going to go over, is going to give you a better chance of having a more
Mhm.
better fitting garment the way it's intended. You don't want your seam allowances to be uneven.
Yeah.
So,
And having that adjustable bar there is really great.
and you could bring it down to a 1/4 of an inch, just about, right?
Yeah.
So that's really nice. So it's not just 5/8 of an inch.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, one of my
Mhm.
favorite feet up next, and I have both brand versions. So the Brother and Baby Lock dynamic walking foot. So whenever you're sewing really thick seams, and I think that these feet work best, especially with this version, which is the Brother SE2000, or if you have a Baby Lock version like a Flare, a Bloom. The dynamic walking foot is really nice because it's going to help pick up and go through those thick layers of fabric. So I use a walking foot a lot, actually. I definitely used to use it a lot. And I like the dynamic one because you have interchangeable soles. So I'm just going to show everyone this one real quick. And the difference between this one and a regular walking foot is that you can't change out the soles. So there's additional soles which I don't have in the lineup today. But what comes with both versions is a open toe and a closed toe sole. You can't change out on your regular walking foot the feet, but with the dynamic one you can. And so they very easily just pull off and you could swap them out. So if you're doing decorative stitches with the open toe, that's really nice. And the grip on these is a
Oh, yeah, look
lot
at that.
nicer. So it really helps pull through that fabric and it really grips on. I find with the regular walking foot that comes with most machines, it doesn't do it as well as this one. So, and I have both versions, the Baby Lock and the Brother, for whichever machine brand is your preferred choice. So,
We're going to go back for a second. There's a really cool new measuring tape tool we have, which has this curved feature. So if you're all by yourself and don't have anyone to help measuring,
and I love
clip
that.
it right in.
And it's Baby Lock branded.
Yeah.
I love that. And that, I think the part is 2 inches itself.
It does, and it has that accounted for. So it starts at 2 inches. And then you have your measurement without even needing to
Let
have
me
a
see
buddy.
this real quick. I want to
Yeah.
see how easy it is to take my own chest measurement. Just like that. And if we were in a mirror, we could just double check and make sure it's lining through. Look at that. So 39. That is really nice.
Easy peasy.
This is a nice measuring tape. So I didn't even know that we had this yet. So
Yeah.
and it's Baby Lock branded. So I love that. Maybe
Perfect.
we'll find a Brother branded one too. Or a Bernina one.
That would be cool.
And
Okay.
then we have
Back to our scissors.
Oh, I love these scissors.
Mhm.
You know what I actually love these scissors the best for?
Hmm.
Cutting out patterns.
Yeah.
They're just perfect for those tiny little corners.
Little corners, yeah.
So I like these a lot, actually. These are some of my favorite scissors.
We're going through all our snips and scissors right now.
Yes, so our
Got our-
squeezy snips. Once again, I know everybody probably has three pairs of these by now, but these are just the best. You need multiple because we go through them a lot here. So these are just best for trimming off loose threads, embroidery threads, everything.
We had all our duckbills earlier, so then we have our purple Kai scissors.
Yep, and these are great for cutting out fabric too.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really love these. Great for cutting out different types of fabric.
Mhm.
And then I have some
Wonder
Wonder
clips.
Clips. The best. These are actually better. So when you're sewing faux leather, and our next show, we are going to show different types of seams, and I'm happy that I put these out so I'll remember to explain this, or I can show it now. Whenever you're sewing faux leather, you don't want to pin it with a regular pin
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to leave a mark and it's never going to come out and that's with all leathers. So we like to use clips when sewing with that. Even just regular sewing, the clips are really nice because I poke myself with pins too much. So I'm kind of a pin cushion over here at times. But they hold everything really nice. So definitely get some clips if you don't have them already.
All right. And then we have all our different needles, our universals first. Always great to have extra needles.
Yep, so we have, I think, 3 different types in the lineup right now. So we have 7511, 9014s, 8012s. And I do like to explain this. When you are selling delicate fabrics, it is really important that you're using the right size needle. I would not use a 90 on this type of satin charmeuse right here, or even on a organza. I like to go to the finest that I can, which would be a 7511. That way it doesn't leave a big mark. And sometimes with very delicates too, if you're using a heavy needle, it could pull that fabric and fray it. So you don't want that to happen. So make sure that you use the right needles. So that's for our universal sewing.
And then we've got our jeans and denim needles. little bit heavier duty.
Yes, and especially when you're going over those thick denim seams, like so. I mean, this is 4 layers right here. You want to make sure you're using those heavyweight needles, a 100 or a 110. These are the variety packs right here. So you have both 100 and 110. I like to use a 110 when I'm using a very thick top stitching thread. That way the eye of the needle is big enough for that thread to pull through. So really important.
Yes, and then our embroidery needles.
Our
Where are
favorites.
we?
I think everybody, these are the best needles for embroidery. You can't not go wrong here. So I got 9014s right here. And I think in the lineup, do I have the other types?
8012s and the 7511.
And then we're selling these as 5 packs. So definitely stock up. Every embroidery project, change that needle because sometimes it might ruin your project and you might go, why is my tension off? Always change that needle every new embroidery project. That's my rule of thumb. So.
And then we've got some more specialty needles. We'll click through these.
Yep, so I have leather needles right here. These are designed to go through faux leathers, faux leather vinyls, or even a thin leather on your machine. So these are really nice to use. I have serger needles right here. So I like to use these for the serger. You could also use a regular needle in the serger, but these ones are designed specially for the serger. And then I also have top stitching needles. The eye is a little bit bigger on these so that you could pull through a heavy duty top stitching thread.
All right.
And then we have thread
Threads.
packs. Yes, you always need threads. And it's good to have at least one of every color.
I think one of every color today is our Aurifil Necessities, basic neutral colors, always running out of black and white.
Yes,
So-
black and white is the most used, I feel like. So, and these are 4 really nice large spools.
Okay, and then we have some collections literally for every season. So there's our summer collection.
Yep, and you have beautiful shades from red to purple. You have the whole rainbow right here. So.
Perfect for bright summer colors. Spring with all our pastels.
Yes, and so I would definitely be using maybe if there's another green. It's nice to have a thread of every color with sew-all thread because when you're having somebody's dress, you make sure that you have the close enough color to it. So
This one?
Is
The autumn
next.
one's next?
They're, like,
Okay.
different colors
No,
from
that's
the-
okay. Here's
Yeah.
autumn. Ooh, look at all those
those are
warm fall
so
tones.
pretty. So pretty.
All of our fall fabrics coming in right now, so you might want to get your hands on this.
Yes.
And
Oh,
then
especially
here's
fall
winter.
fabrics.
Yeah.
You guys haven't seen them yet. They are so pretty. Well, I think they saw some last night.
Some of them, yeah.
Some.
A bunch came in yesterday, though, so that didn't make it on.
Yes. And then we have our blue to black right here. So you have some grays, kind of a pearly white, and a deep blue. This is a really nice winter collection.
And then we just have some different finishes.
Yep. So this one is 100% polyester. And is this the regular one? And this is the
This is
silk
the silk
finish.
finish, yeah.
So I like the silk finish, especially if I'm doing something on a satin. I think it stitches out a little bit cleaner, a lot nicer. And then here's just the regular sew-all polyester one. So these are both really nice, and they are the same colors. So you have black, white, cream, brown, red, gray, a lighter blue, and a navy. So I always recommend stocking up on threads. I have a huge Tupperware bin of just different threads from over the years. So how about you?
I have all of mine up on a wall in one of our little thread holders, all organized by color. So
That's fancy.
Yeah.
Mine are just in Ziploc bags. So I'm curious, how do you guys display your thread at home? If you want to share in the comments.
meanwhile, we've got rotary cutters.
Yes, and we now have the big 60 millimeter one too. But I have one of all 3 at home actually. So I like to use the little one with going around armholes, but also delicate fabrics like a chiffon. I find the little one gives me better control. So definitely recommend getting the 28 millimeter if you're going to be sewing a lot with satins or some slippery fabrics like chiffon, I just find it gives me better control when I'm cutting out. And then we have our 45. We like to use these for everything. I think we have a million around both
Yes,
stores.
so many.
So always finding one. So
And always losing them somehow. So
yes. And then we have the newer 60 millimeter ones. And we like these because when Tiffany was cutting out all these layers of Bozal the other day for the spring event, it's a lot and it's thicker. So she's able to go through multiple with one of the bigger blades.
And we have replacement blades to go with all those sizes.
Yes, our favorite blades, the gold titanium ones. So these are our favorite blades, and we have the 60 millimeter now. So definitely always stock up, always have these blades. They're our favorite. They last long and they cut beautifully rather than the silver ones. And plus, I think everything looks a little bit better in gold.
Yeah, it does. These have a really nice finish to them.
So.
Oop. Back to our patterns.
If you want to talk about this
Yeah.
for a second.
We've showed these on our show before, but we've got all our patterns. So let me see what's first. I'll help you out, Kate. Our pajama pants, which we had a class on 3 weeks ago now. Yeah, we're a little off schedule, but this is a great pattern. It has 3 different length options and comes in sizings for kids, adults, and teens. So for one pattern, you're really getting like 6 different patterns. It's a really great and such a basic, simple, easy gift, easy project. Whip it up in an hour. I make them all the time around the holidays. And then we have our vest pattern, which we haven't done a class on yet, but we're really excited about it. Doing a little quilt collab for this one. Can you say that? Yeah.
Yes. And you know, with the $9.90 now,
Yeah.
there is that Pro Stitcher software in there. So I was looking at that and I was going to say, maybe Steve could show me that too. Because I'd like to make 2 versions, one with edge to edge and one with that.
That would be great.
And we're just trying to get that fabric in. So with tariffs and everything, we kind of had to resource where we were going to get this waterproof fabric from. So we're just still kind of looking around and holding off on this one a little bit.
And then we have our simple sweatshirt pattern.
Yep. And it's such an easy serger project. You know, a lot of people feel intimidated when they come to sergers. I can't wait to teach this one when we get the fabric in. It's super, super easy. So definitely recommend getting one of these and giving that a try.
Yes. And then we have these bag patterns. Maybe a collab with Tiffany is in the future.
Hopefully soon enough. So Tiffany is awesome. If you guys haven't seen the bags for the spring event,
they're really, really cool.
what did we name
They're
them
cute.
again? Or did she name them? It was the Mini and the Munchkin.
I think
I think we showed them last night.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
She had a name for them, so we'll come back to
They're
that.
very
But
cute.
it's a really cute name.
All right. And then a little jacket. This is going to be such a fun project.
I know. I can't wait to do that one. So I got to get the ball rolling on this one a little bit because I did promise Joni I was going to make it for her. So.
And last but not least, our dress, which was our very first class. Almost all of these patterns have that easy to sew label on it. So quick, easy projects, great for beginners.
So, and then that brings us close to the end here. So our absolute favorite iron is the Mini Panasonic. So I have both colors. This one is still on, so let me not set it on the thing. But these stay on for 2 hours, and they are very lightweight, have a very nice water tank. They give off really nice steam, and you have different settings with low, medium, high. So make sure you put it on low if you're doing faux leather.
And we have it in this lovely ruby red as well.
No, I love this color.
It's
this
such
is my
a great
favorite
color.
So get those. And then what's really important is the iron cleaner. Keep your irons clean. You do not want to ruin your clothes with a dirty iron. That is the worst thing. Have you had that happen to you
Yes,
before?
and this stuff really works. We found an iron up in this shop, and Carol used a little bit of this to clean it off, and it works good as new. So,
And then...
I actually want to show this.
oh my gosh!
Yeah, let's show this. We showed this last night, and so
I didn't see
if you
this.
think this is a mini iron, this is a small one. But I really actually love this. It's such a great price on this too. This is perfect for in the hoop projects.
This is adorable, yeah.
And you get this little water cup so you don't overfill it, which I think is really nice.
that's
This is from Nifty Notions. I love the way they package all of their
so
products.
cute.
So perfect when you have to iron something in the hoop. It fits perfect in 5x7.
And travel size.
Yes, travel size. I wish I would have snuck these onto the cruise ship. They didn't let us have irons in our rooms. So.
Oh, there you
And
go.
If you guys know me, I like to iron all my clothes. So.
How do you turn it on, Lynn asks.
So you plug it in, and then there is a setting here. So you just twist this, and then you could put it on max, you could put it on medium or low, or you could go below low, which is very little heat. That's actually all the way off. So, and you just line it up with that arrow right there. So if you need to use steam, just press down. So up next.
Back to our cute little iron-on patches. I love these. They're so cute.
I know. Never give up with the seam ripper. So start a project. Remember, you can keep seam ripping it as many times as you need to. But blood, sweat, and shears might be my favorite. So
I like that.
and these look so cute on a
machine.
jean jacket. Little upcycle. You could put it on the back of a pair of jeans on the pocket.
that'd
And
be
these
cute.
are just iron-ons. So no sewing needed.
Okay.
All right, so we have some threads here that I said we'd show for the serger, and Kate's gonna click through all of these real quick. So you could hit shop, but I have multiple colors in our lineup. I only have the reds by me right now, so you'll get 2 colors or 2 cones of Madeira Aerolock. This is a great serger thread, and then separately, and this is for the rolled hem on the serger, and you could do that on any serger. I don't think there's a single serger brand I've seen, at least with the ones we carry, that you can't do a narrow rolled hem on. And then you'll want the stretch maxi lock thread when you're putting that in the upper looper, and it just gives it a really nice clean finish. So it's just a beautiful way to finish off a lightweight fabric. So I have kind of matching colors that I saw in the lineup, so Kate just clicked through all those. If you hit shop below, you could go through and see the colors I have in the lineup. And then Kathy keeps making fun of me, but anytime I see a red, white, and blue variegated, I always have to pull it up. So it's just really nice. I think I have it in the lineup.
Don't think we do.
Uh-oh.
Well, if you guys come back at IQ at 3 o'clock with me and Kate, I'll make sure I have this in that lineup there, but you could also type in variegated maxi lock on our site, and that will pull up.
Okay. We have our friction pens. I think our blue one's still over there.
Yep. So I have a 3-pack here. These are perfect. I would stock up on them. I just love how they heat erase right off. They're perfect, especially when marking seam allowances or hems. So, and I like to have one of every color too. I'm not going back this one real quick, but just having the white, it's perfect for all different colors of fabric. Then the multi-purpose screwdriver. So whenever you're changing off the ankle to embroidery or tightening something up, I love these multi-purpose screwdrivers, or if you're tightening an embroidery hoop. I have both brands, Baby Lock and Brother. Like I said, I lose everything. I think I lost about 5 of these ones in this building. So we have multiple and they're just gone. So definitely get an extra one of these. They're great.
All right, and then we have our bobbin saver. Great little storage option for your bobbins. I wish I had one like this because my cats are always chasing after my bobbin threads. So
Oh my.
good pet friendly.
Yes, yes indeed. And I'm always dropping a bobbin and it rolls. It rolls under the table and I'm like.
And this is a nice silicone sort of texture, so it really holds the thread in there. Yeah. All right. And we have some books.
Oh, this is my new favorite book that we have here.
This is really cool.
So, this is a very informative book, and I can't show you all of the inside, but this is how to clone your clothes, and they give some really good pattern making techniques. So maybe if you're just wanting to start dabble with pattern making, this is a great book, I think, to start out with, because they do give you step-by-step guides on from measuring to making a sample
Mhm.
to adjusting it, adding the seam allowances. So
Every step, start to finish, and it has pictures all throughout, which is super duper helpful if you're more of a visual learner.
and it is really nice because they even explain using those French curve rollers. So I make my own patterns. Genevieve does too. So there's a lot of techniques that we use in here that I think is very beginner friendly. I would definitely recommend picking one of these up, especially if you have like a tank top or a shirt that you want to recreate, and then you could have your favorite style in a couple of different colors. I've done that a lot. So
And we have two little Bernina books here, the Big Book of Stitches and the Big Book of Feet.
yes, and so I love the Big Book of Stitches. The Bernina decorative stitches are absolutely beautiful from the ones that Steve sewed out the other day in a variegated thread. I really like what the Berninas have to offer. And then the Big Book of Feet, this goes over all the different Bernina feet, and my favorite on the front cover, their buttonhole foot, which I know I showed you guys a little bit before, but I cannot stress this enough. Being able to do that buttonhole on those heavy weight fabrics and it just comes out as beautiful as those. That's a big thing with Bernina for me at least. So, and they told Gloria and Steve they have kept their buttonhole foot the same for the past 20 years.
Oh, wow. Reliable. Okay.
And then
some
think
more
we just have a
nifty
few
notions. All this stuff is just so cute. The packaging and the colors are amazing. So bright and fun.
And this is our elastic loop turner and pull. So you would be able to thread a drawstring or elastic through a waistband. So that's really nice. And then a few more things.
Then we have our bobbin clamps.
Yes. So those loose bobbin threads, use these to clamp that off. Really nice. I love those.
And to go with it, bobbin holders, which go on top of your little thread spools, which is so cool and I've never seen before. So if you want to keep your thread together with the matching bobbin.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah. And that way you're not going through a bobbin drawer like I have. Like I know I have a bobbin that I wound with white thread. Where is it at? And then I wind another one and then it shows up.
Yep. And then our flower head pins, which come in this cute little tin.
Yes, so these are really cute. I love these. So I love all of the ways that they package everything. So,
and it all matches. So cute.
So, and I think that's it. Alrighty, well, thank you guys for joining us. If you come back today at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be doing IQ Designer with Kate today. So Gloria's away, but I have a really fun project for you guys. So fun and easy. So thank you all so much for joining us. So have a great day.
Bye.